So what I wanted to do, I wanted to give a little background for people who don't know us. So we grew up in Reston. I moved in 10th grade, but you essentially were raised there, and Reston is the playing community. And that means all the social economic demographics are there. And you actually happen to go to Dogwood, which had a lot of the lower income families. So did that give you a different perspective on race relations?
It gave me a perspective. That it wasn't different thing. It was the only one I had.
Right,
Um,
right.
it was very much a yeah. It was a melting pot, and it was whatever street justice. It was meritocracy. It was no upper hand, no favoritism, no inherent privilege.
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
because you all had to ride the bus or walk or get play on the playground, and you had to get your spot, and you didn't get nothing was reserved. I mean, it was a very equitable type of arrangement for everybody.
Right. And so then I moved to Reston. We become partners in crime, and you spent a lot of time at the Allen kitchen table, right, listening to Dr. Pops.
Those days were legendary.
And the first incident that I've talked about is the senior beach week, and we've never even had a conversation about this since it happened. But for those who don't know, like I was walking with our boy George, and George probably was like 150 pounds, soaking wet, and he was a pretty boy. So these four dudes roll up. White guys, they start throwing the N-word, telling us to go back to Africa, and in that split second, I mean, it felt like minutes, but I know it was seconds. I'm thinking, all right, so there's four guys in the car. I'm going to have to get the guy in the passenger seat first in the front, then the guy that's behind him, and then the other two are going to have to come around. So I'll take my chances with them, and maybe George can help a little. So all this is like a split-second thing. How am I going to defend myself if these guys get out of the car? So they ended up not getting out of the car because they were cowards, as most of those kind of guys are.
Yeah.
But I was fired up, and it was probably the first time anybody in that group or who was with us saw me fired up. I hustled back to the house. We happened to have a bat. I took the bat, didn't say anything to anybody. I just went out there and walked out and to a bus stop right on the main drag. But what was going on when I came in and when I left? Like, what was the conversation? Do you even remember?
No, I mean, I do remember that. We were also girl crazy at that time, and being away for that, your mind. It was hard for my mind to go there, but I saw a friend in distress. Friends like, and I don't know if didn't know if there was an altercation to that point, or it was scary for me because I was like, hey man, but and I don't know what exactly we were dealing with. I mean, we were dealing with a bunch of guys with guns, or
Right.
guys that were looking to lynch somebody, or just wanted to fight, or just a bunch of pussy boys from Landon,
These dudes were definitely not Landon type. That was good. Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to create any drama by saying, hey, let's go with me. And I did like my chances with them with the bat. But as people are as horrified that happened to me, it was totally offset by all you guys within 10 minutes had showed up and just sat there on the bench with me. No one said anything, but I was like, well, I got my boys with me. So it totally negated the negative thing that I was going through. And we waited there about 15 minutes, and then, we rolled out. But it meant a lot to have you guys roll up. You didn't ask any questions, and it was just essentially saying, hey man, we got your back.
Well, yeah, and I mean, to that point, I mean, have things devolved so much? Like, I mean, you watch these movies, like, are we 40? We're 35 years past that. Is it rare for brothers in arms, guys to do everything together and sleep over each other's houses and date the same girls? Like, I mean, to do that, I mean, is that where race relations are in this country? Like,
well, yeah, I think it was probably, or at least as it applied to me, the first time that you guys had seen me in a negative situation and in a negative
aggravated and threatened,
yeah.
and had and needing to respond, and
Yeah.
yeah, like going, kind of on an island at the same time. But I think the point was that you weren't on an
Right.
island.
Exactly. Well said. Well said. So then we're like 10 years out of college, probably. Yeah. 10 years out of high school. And we're in Bethany Beach. And I'm driving you and I back to your parents' house in Bethany. And we're at a three-way stop. And there's a cop to the right on your side turning left into us. And we were turning left to go to your house. And I said, he's going to stop us. And you said, why? We aren't doing anything. So it was really the first time you'd ever had been a part of the whole driving while black thing. And
Yeah.
I knew automatically what was going to happen, but you didn't. And then I was like, I just wanted to ignore the cop. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of being acknowledged for doing something stupid. But by the time we got to your parents' house and I pulled up, you got a car and you went and talked to him. And I said, Paul, don't even talk to him because he's going to tell you that there were some robberies in the neighborhood. And he was just checking. And then isn't that what he told you?
So I honestly don't remember. I mean, I remember the whole experience. I don't remember what he said, but I was like, man, I mean, wait a second. Like, and that looking back on that, it was my comfort level getting out of my car to go talk to him.
Right.
That is really the contrast here.
Right. Because you deserved an answer.
Yeah. Let me go talk to this fool.
Right. Your privilege told you that you deserved an answer, and I was pissed because I'm like, ignore him. But I also understood that this was your first time having to deal with this, so you were trying to wrap your head around it by getting him to answer you when I knew the deal, and I just wanted him to sit out in his car and just look stupid sitting out in the car because he had nothing.
All of a sudden, he had a hot prospect on Bethany Beach that he needed to be on patrol for, and I mean that is such a microcosm of the white privilege that people just don't even know exist around them.
Right.
Carl, let me go talk to this dude. Let me find out what's up. As if the thought of a threat is the last thing that would occur to me.
Right. Because I was going to be the first one to get beat up.
Profile. Right under my nose. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and that was the other thing. It was like, he wasn't going to hit you. He was going to hit me. And I was like, well, I think it's hard for people to wrap their head around. Like when people ask me when I ask my friends and I try to get it across to them, like, have you ever been stopped for doing nothing? They just don't understand the question. And so before that point, you probably wouldn't have understood the question either, but you got to see it with your own eyes. And even though you were white and sitting in that car, I was the one driving and I was the one being profiled. So it was almost like it was a terrible experience, a negative experience, but I think it gave you a perspective of like,
a wonderful I mean, but honestly, my first thought was, what did you do, man? Why are we in this situation?
Yeah, that is the other side of the coin of being my road dog for all those years. There is a hazard to being around me. So
what do you do?
Yeah. So then, like a year later, that next summer,
we're
in State College. It's me, you, and Ryan. We're coming from who's also white. And we're coming from a party, same situation. We're at a stop sign, there's a cop. And I think before I even said something, you said something like, oh, shit, here we go again. And Ryan's like, what? And then you explained to Ryan what was about to happen. And sure enough, we got maybe a block and a half, 2 blocks, and the cop pulled me over again. Yeah. So, again, Ryan not having ever had this experience, like by this time you were a KG veteran, you knew the drill. Ryan had never experienced, and Ryan's drunk, and he's like indignant to the cop. And when the cop went back to the car, I said, Ryan, shut the fuck up, because I'm going to be the first one to get hit. And he just couldn't.
There's only one person that's going to lose in this.
Right. And so it was his first experience, but it was cool to have you riding shotgun saying, oh, this is about to go down, Ryan. And then you explained to him, because he wasn't even listening to me when I said, shut up. And then you're like, no, dude, this is just shut up. And then he shut up. So it was like, The main reason I actually even wanted to have this conversation, we never talked about it before, and I think you have a unique perspective because as much time as we spent together and as much time you spent at our house, it really never hit home until you were like in it, right? Is that fair?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to summarize it. Like, you don't know until you've experienced it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sort of sums up the whole conversation. And even if you're next to it or near it, I mean, you're not living it,
Right.
because as soon as you walk around the corner, it's a different experience. Or,
Right.
The
Right.
lights go out, it's a little different experience. As soon as the sun goes down,
Right. So
or you take a wrong turn. I mean, I've felt that my whole life, and I'm thankful for being like, whatever this woke concept came on later on, but I mean,
you've
hey,
always been woke.
hey,
You were immersed in it.
there was as much a threat of me getting body slammed as anybody else in that household. Learn the rules, you knew the parameters. Like,
right.
that was our life. It was it. And I mean, to say it was colorless or you didn't see color, I mean, yeah, we did. Like, but we embraced it. Like,
Right. Right.
Color,
Yeah.
color
Yeah, the colorblind thing I'm not down with. It's like we embrace it and everyone should embrace it and enjoy the differences, because colorblind almost insinuates I don't acknowledge that you are this diverse person and you have
we're different. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
right. I think even Pops,
and your sister's number. Like,
yeah. He said he always used to love, between the three of us, he'd be in the kitchen or something and somebody would come up from the basement and he would not know who it would be or what ethnicity that it would be, but I think he reveled in the fact that our friends ran the gamut. So because I haven't had the gift of a child, like what kind of conversations or lessons do you have to have with Austin, who's now 14 in a month?
He'll be 14 next month.
November 6th, right?
We had a conversation a couple months ago with the whole George Floyd, and I said, man, I said, do you have any black friends? And he's like, nope. And there's, a handful at his school, and there'll be more in high school. And it just so happens we've been to 2 middle schools already, but the demographics are just the same. Like, there's just not any African Americans in our stratosphere, and there's not a lot of Latinos either. There's a decent amount of Asian. I mean, I'm in a real white enclave, but trust me, by no design. But
right.
I've been trying to figure out. So he's in sports and he plays hoops. So he goes down.
Yeah, I got to see him play against the brothers down there at Spooky Nook.
Yeah. I mean, he's cool on that end, and he knows his shortcomings. Like, he's got to work on his handle and get some agility going. And
Right.
I'm just like, hey, man, but it's a different version. I mean, it was such a rich part of my life growing up with all different types of people around.
Yeah, I think because of where I was going to school before I moved to Reston, and I don't know if you knew, but Pops was very intentional about where I went to school or where we moved. So he got all the demographic information, because he essentially was like, I'm not doing this kid any service having them go to these all white schools. So he went and saw who had the most diverse populations of the high schools, and it came down to T.C. Williams, Herndon, and South Lakes. And he said if South Lakes wasn't such, and basketball was obviously a part of his decision making too, and it was such a strong basketball school, but that was the greatest gift I was given, was to move to Reston and not be the only black kid, and we were all integrating and we're all friends. And it wasn't, I mean, you're gonna have problems everywhere, but it was very advantageous to just blend for once and then have friends who ran the gamut. And like our other boy was American Indian. Like, it was, growing up there was, I acknowledge that it's not the norm, but I think the grand experiment worked, because a lot of my friends now who didn't go to high school with us are just amazed that most of my closest friends are still from South Lakes.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty fascinating. I would just say it's unique that, I've been spent time on an Indian reservation and growing up in a black household, and
Yeah,
and to this
you did.
day,
You had the
those
ribs at the
those
crib?
are the people that had the impact on me. And hey man, my family's great, but our brotherhood was its own thing. Like we just
Yeah.
yeah, and that those are bonding years, and we're fortunate. We all had supportive parents. I mean, we all had parents who
Right.
happened to be supportive also. So I mean you could come and go to any of those houses whenever you wanted, and it was
Right.
no but I mean shit. Mark's mom threw me the car keys when I was 15. She goes, "Can you go pick up my dry cleaning?" I'm like, I don't even,
Before you even had your license?
I was like, all right, yeah, no problem.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Well, I appreciate the insight, and I do think about Austin all the time and what his experience is going to be because he's growing up in a much different world. But as much as I can be a positive part, I know I don't live there anymore, but as much as I can be a positive part in his experience, I am more than happy to do that.
No, it's appreciated. He knows whose dad's boys are, and he stays close to it. And
Right.
he's
All right.
got
Well, well, tell him I said what's up. Keep shooting the rock and throwing the rock. I guess I'm guessing he's a quarterback. No.
nah, he's the wide receiver, man.
Okay.
He's just
Got the hands. Well, he's
flat.
athletic, so I get that.
And
Tall,
so
lanky. They just throw it up for him to go get it. Is that what's going on?
yeah, he's
All right, brother. Well, thanks for the minutes, man. Love you.
all right.
Give everybody a hello for me.
Love you.
Tell
Hey,
Andy.
in mid-November. I'll hit you up. We'll figure
Okay.
something out.
Sounds like a plan. I'll talk to you. Peace out.